It's soup season here in the Northern Hemisphere, and we've had some requests for soup recipes. Well, at Veg with Lisa, we're here to please, so keep the requests coming. By the way, you can contact us on our Facebook page or on our website at vegwithlisa.com. But for now, how about some veggie soup for your soul? Let's get cooking. One of the things I love about this recipe, besides the fact it's so delicious, is that it's really, really easy. You just grab your vegetables and chop as you go. I've already got some onions and garlic sizzling on the stove in my big red soup pot. It doesn't have to be red, but you will need a nice big soup pot for this recipe. I'm going to add some chopped carrots. Next up is some celery. You know, besides the onions and the carrots and the celery, this recipe is completely flexible. You can really use whatever vegetables you have on hand. What I'm going to show you today is just a suggestion. They're all so good for you. Carrots, as most of you probably know, contain beta-carotene, which is good for your eyes. Red bell peppers like this are a very good source of vitamin C. In fact, there's more vitamin C in one red bell pepper than there is in an orange. All right, I'm going to add my peppers to the pot. So my veggies are getting nice and sauteed. I'm going to add 5 cups of vegetable stock to the pot. You can make your own. I didn't. I bought this time. There's some great options available on the market. Just make sure you read your ingredients and notice if there's salt added. That's going to make a difference to how much you add later on. You don't want it overly salty. 2 cups of diced canned tomatoes with the juice. And cooked tomatoes are a great source of lycopene. If you're making this in the summer, by all means use chopped fresh tomatoes. 2 teaspoons of salt. Again, remember that if your stock is salted, you might want to adjust that. 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. And 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Then some dried herbs. I've got some oregano, basil, dill, and thyme. And again, if it's summer and you've got a nice window box, feel free and use fresh herbs. Stir this together and bring it to a boil. And then we're going to add some of our other ingredients. While I'm waiting for my soup to come to a boil, I'm going to finish chopping my remaining veggie, kale. You may recall from our very first episode that I have a real thing for leafy greens. Kale is absolutely one of my favorites. I think it's delicious in this soup. It is a cruciferous vegetable, so it's so good for you. But kale has an almost sweet quality to it, which plays really well with the acid in the tomatoes. So once the soup comes just to a boil, I'm going to add the remaining of my ingredients and let it cook. Okay. So the soup has just come to a boil, and I'm going to add some frozen lima beans. I know a lot of you probably just cringed. If you don't like lima beans, you can use edamame, green peas, corn. Get creative. But if you buy frozen lima beans, I don't think they'll remind you of those mushy things your mom tried to feed you out of a can. My kale goes into a nice dose of freshly cracked black pepper. And what would a Veg with Lisa recipe be without a pinch of crushed chili flakes? I know. It's just my little Vata deranged ingredient addiction. Stir all that together. Cover slightly, lower the heat, and let this soup cook until the vegetables are tender. And while our soup cooks, we're going to take a brief poetic interlude.
For soup lovers only, the carrots, potatoes, onions, and celery slow danced with purpose in the vegetable broth, seasoned generously with thyme. When the noodles were added to the pot, the remedy for their fever, aching joints, and heavy heart thickened, ready to be gulped with abandon under a full moon that pulled it all together for the push of an eager spoon against a prepared bowl.
This recipe makes a really big batch, so it's great for a crowd or for good leftovers. I like to serve mine with some nice whole grain crackers or a really great piece of crusty bread. For wine, Debbie at the Cellar Rat helped us with what was probably the obvious choice, an Italian red. This particular one is a Barbera, and it's got low tannins and bright acid, so it should be really great with all the vegetables and the tomatoes in the soup. Let's give this a try. Soup is delicious. And so is the wine. It's nice and light, a little hint of acid to it. I like it a lot. Thanks, Debbie. Glory admits it's getting a little bit trickier to choose a beer because she's vowed only to pick vegan beers. This beer, however, is a steam beer, and she picked this particular one because her beer guy at Tipsy's told her to. So let's give it a try. Gotta see how it's gonna taste with the soup. It's great. It tastes kind of like a cross between a lager and a pale ale. Yeah. Cheers. And bon appetit and happy holidays.
Thanks for coming by, and thank you for having me. And Veg with Lisa. I'm